You're eligible or you're not eligible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you're eligible for this. You know, well, the levels, you know, I mean, 100% cleaner, 100% more rational, 100% more fair
Mm-hmm.
to people,
Mm-hmm.
and 100% more honorable.
Mm-hmm.
More honorable. You pay into the Social Security system. You pay, you know. So when you are in need, you have a right to receive your benefits. This is not
Mm-hmm.
welfare. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't belong in welfare. It never did.
Do you know how it works in France or Germany?
They also have it separated.
Mm-hmm.
They also have it separated. Now, every one of those countries, including us, by the way, there are some items that stayed over, and they call it special needs. And most countries have that as well, special needs. You know, institutional placement, foster care placement,
Mm-hmm.
and the money that goes with foster care placement. You know, there are payments to foster
Right.
care. There are payments for stuff that people do. There are payments for certain medical things, support for certain medical things. So the welfare department still has some of that stuff, but there's no comparison to the load that they was passed, you know, and moved on to what they have left over.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, what bothered me a lot was what we call in Hebrew, shikul da'at, your personal assessment and evaluation and decision making based on what you think is right.
Mm-hmm.
That's in many ways, very dangerous. I did another study, and by the way, every one of these issues was accompanied by a study before I jumped to policy. That's really the way I work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a matter of I think it's a good idea. I have to know a lot more. So I did a study about, I made some dummy cases, people coming to ask for things from social workers. And I used to give out, you know, on print, and I used to give out this page at some social work conferences where I could get social workers. So you get two groups of social workers, one sitting in one room, an auditorium, and one sitting in another auditorium, and you give them different cases, okay? And you ask them what's the diagnosis of this family situation you just read, and what are you going to do about it? What is the action are you going to take, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I gave out different situations, and most social workers were not aware of the benefits that were coming to people. And most of the social workers in that situation were leaning heavily on psychiatric or psychological intervention rather than financial intervention, and they didn't know the criteria. So if you leave it up to their personal assessment of what the family should be getting, it was all over the place. Depends into which hands you fell as a client,
Mm-hmm.
and that's wrong. That's not fair. That's not equal. That's really wrong. It's not good practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that really opened up the thing. Let's make the criteria clear. Let's give it to somebody else who can just carry out the criteria. You know?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of research went into that. And those are published also, articles, you know.
So that's kind of it's almost like a study that is assessing the consistency of experts in administering a process.
Absolutely right.
And what you're describing, what you found is that there wasn't a lot of consistency. In fact, it was pretty inconsistent.
That's right. I found
Mhm.
consistency was maybe 60%, and they were in agreement maybe.
Right. It would be, I suppose, similar studies are done in the psychology and psychiatry
For sure, yeah.
field in terms of interpretation of whatever the standard diagnostic manual is.
Right, the stimulus. Right.
There must be similar studies. I wonder what the consistency is there.
Well, I didn't invent the wheel. No,
Mhm.
I just took the methodology from different disciplines and applied
That's
it
really
into my
interesting.
area.
Very, very
I
interesting.
don't have to, no. I did another thing was, I think, interesting in the same vein. I had this methodology. Sometimes I changed the names of the client. I'd give them an Ashkenazi name, which is a Western name, or I'd give them a Sephardi name, which is a Middle Eastern name, Jewish name, and see whether their diagnosis was different and their intervention strategy was different. Don't ask me the results.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, could I make a guess?
Yeah.
That the results were pretty differentiated by the two
Absolutely.
sets of names.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me into everything, one thing leads to, that's the beauty and the dynamics of academic life, and you know, it's the beauty of it. That led me into another big research project. Because I had made, I had made comments about that when I did that research, I was really disturbed. And then I looked at the makeup of the student body, okay, at the School of Social Work. And I found out that the overwhelming majority of the student body was Ashkenazi, was Western.
Mm-hmm.
While the overwhelming majority of the clients were Sephardi. And so if you let them play with their stereotypes, you can get into a situation where they really don't understand that other culture, or they have their own stereotypes, and that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked me to be chairman of admissions. And I said, wait a minute, I'm willing to be chairman of admissions if you let me fool around, because admissions today is perpetuating something that I'm not comfortable with. They said, well, what would you do? And I said, I would do an experiment where I would take into the student body a certain percentage of people who were not eligible to be admitted at all. Because in my heart of hearts, I knew that those people would probably be from the other group, And they said, well, what would your criteria be? And I said, one, I wouldn't do it by ethnic background. I would not use that. I would use number of years of the mother's education, the school that the person went to, whether it was designated as an underdeveloped poverty area school. We have that rating.
Mm-hmm.
The average high school grade of the student, which was not enough to get into the university by the present criteria, and the number of children in the family. The larger, the better. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if you put all those together, you're going to get pretty much a Sephardi population and an Arab population, a Muslim population, underprivileged, disadvantaged people who are trying like crazy to get into the university and will never make it. So it went to the Central Admissions Committee of the university. It went, and they agreed. They gave me 5 years. No, they gave me 3 classes, 3 incoming classes. And I asked for 20% of the class, each class. My choice,
Mm-hmm.
my criteria, okay? And I got some foundation money, and I got a wonderful woman. I was giving a lecture in San Francisco about this problem. I didn't tell her about the research. So she came up to me and she said, gee, what can I do? I said, I'll tell you what you can do. I will split. I told her about the research. Those students who are the underprivileged students, I will split them into 2 groups. To one of them, I will tell them they have been accepted to the university as disadvantaged students under this program, and I am offering them scholarship assistance, tutorial assistance, on whatever they need, so that we'll see if that helps. To the other group, the disadvantaged students, nothing. In fact, they didn't even know that they were admitted to the university through the project. They thought they got in through the front door. So we had 3 comparison groups: regular admissions, disadvantaged students who got some money and help and knew they were in them, and disadvantaged students who didn't know anything about it. And that ran for about 6 or 7 years till they all came out, till they all everything cleaned up everything, finished up everything, and then we made the statistical comparison. We were comparing all along, and we found out that the disadvantaged students were just had a slightly lower average grade when they finished, slightly lower. That the disadvantaged students did better in fieldwork education. In social work, you have a fieldwork experience 2 to 3 days a week for 2 years. They did better than the regular students, than the regular admission students.